You ever wonder how people manage to get stuff done even when they don't feel like it? They show up every day and exercise, write, or grind through difficult problems no matter how they feel. I always wanted to be one of those people when I was younger. I had failed calculus 3 times in university because I just couldn't get myself to do the work. Now, I'd done enough work in high school to get into a good university, but once I got there, studying and showing up in class was not really at the top of my list. For things like English or sociology, I was fine, but calculus required me to actually show up, read the textbook, and learn things to pass it. And there was no part of me that wanted to do that. I would look at those straight A students and think, I wish I had their discipline and their motivation. But once I discovered how they did it, I realized those students weren't actually more motivated. They just had these little tips and tricks that kept them going when they didn't feel like it. And once I broke it all down and pulled it into a 4-step system, I was able to fix my procrastination, stop waiting for motivation, and get more things done. And this is the same system that later helped me lose 100 pounds and build $1 million business. But to understand the system, you have to start with step 1, and that is clearly define the task. I had to pass calculus on my 4th try, so I started looking at it a little bit different. I reviewed the textbook and realized if I could do all the sample problems, I'd know enough to pass the final. Now, I still didn't want to do it, but at least I knew what to do. And instead of this general task of I need to pass calculus, I broke it down into solve sample problems each week. Then when I sat down to study, all I had to do was solve those problems. People are like task completing machines. If you know exactly what to do, you are more likely to do it. But if there's any confusion, if there's anything that doesn't make sense, your brain sends up this does not compute kind of error and you won't even get started. So you have to break down the big scary goal into a simple task. I like to grab my journal and use a system called Whoop from the book Rethinking Positive Thinking whenever I'm stuck on what to do next. That's for another video, but for now, let's just break the task down into a small digestible chunk and get going. Most of the time when things aren't moving forward in my health or my business, it's because I don't actually know what I'm trying to do or what the next task should be. So that would be step 1. Now, I was actually able to help over 9,000 people using this system, and I'll share how later. Once you figure out the next task, then it's a matter of getting yourself to do it. And that's where step 2 comes in. Now, I know what I needed to do was pass calculus, but it still didn't mean I wanted to do it. I would sit on my bed looking at my bag with my textbook in it, thinking, ugh, I just don't want to open that. My roommate at the time used to just come home from class and get straight to work, while I would procrastinate for hours. I asked him one day how he stayed so motivated, and he said, I just commit to doing 30 minutes of work when I get home, no matter what. Even if I don't feel like it, I'll work for those 30 minutes, but most of the time I kind of get things going and I keep working until it's done. I thought it was brilliant, so I decided to try it, but I was not nearly as ambitious as him, so I grabbed an alarm clock and set it for 10 minutes and started working. So that's step number 2, set a timer. Inertia is very powerful. This means if you're procrastinating on something, it's more likely that you will keep procrastinating on that thing until something makes you change. A timer is a perfect tool to break things up. I committed to opening that book and trying to solve the first problem in that 10 minutes. And once I got the first one, I started the second, and soon I was solving problems, reviewing the chapters, and actually studying. And that 10 minutes turned into 60, and soon I had solved all the problems for that week. Nowadays, I use my phone or this fun little timer called the Tick Timer. I'll put a link below if you want to buy one. I'll write down a task like write an email to my list and set a timer to get started. I usually do 3 chunks of 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off, so a total of 75 minutes of work, and that's usually enough to get through most tasks. When I was learning to play my guitar, I would only practice for 10 minutes per day for the first 3 months. And part of the reason is because it was difficult. It made my fingers hurt and progress was slow, so more than 10 minutes felt too hard. As I got better and became more fun, I bumped that up to 30 minutes and later an hour, and then I actually learned how to play. The goal of the timer is to remove the barriers to you starting a task. And once it's started, 80% of the hard work is done. But even starting a timer requires motivation to do, and sometimes you are just not feeling it. Besides, who's gonna notice if you don't do the thing? You can put it off till tomorrow, right? That's exactly what was happening with my calculus work. And soon weeks were going by without me doing anything. I was destined to fail a 4th time, and I probably would have given up unless one of my classmates at the time tapped me on the shoulder and asked if I wanted to join her study group. I'm not overly social with strangers, but I knew I was in trouble, so I decided to go. It was one of the best decisions I made in my university career. It's also step 3 of the system. Do it with somebody else. Humans are social creatures creatures. Even if you are a basement-dwelling gamer, you're probably playing games online with your friends. It's more fun, you take it a bit more seriously, and you get further into the game when you have people to do it with. My study group wasn't a bunch of geniuses. In fact, I thought I was way behind, but it turns out I was ahead of some of them in the book. That weekly group gave me a reason to open my book, work on those problems, and show up somewhere to share what I learned. We taught and learned from each other, and our collective knowledge was more than any one person had on their own. I've since used this trick to get myself to work out, write, do breath work, track my food, do cold plunges, all sorts of things. My favorite way of doing this now is to just text a friend or coworker and say, what do you want to accomplish in the next 25 minutes? If they're working, they'll say something like, I want to schedule all my meetings for the next week. And I'll say, I want to write the subject and outline of my weekly email. And we'll set a timer for 25 minutes and 3, 2, 1, go. Just that little bit of accountability is enough to get you moving. You don't want to be the one who lets the other person down at the end of the 25 minutes, so you just focus and get it done. There are also services like FocusMate or Flow Club where people work together online to get things done. In fact, I sometimes hop on and host a free online Zoom session where anyone can join and work with me. And if you subscribe to my email list, I'll send you an invite to the next one. So now you have a clearly defined task and a timer and a friend to do this with, and this can get you going for the short term. But I found this little secret that unlocks unlimited motivation in almost everyone I've tried it with, including my 7-year-old. It's so good that multi-billion-dollar industries are created around it. If you've ever watched a football game, what's the first thing you look at when you turn it on? Uniforms? Shoes? Field? The crowd? Nope, it's probably the score. In fact, probably wouldn't watch the game if it didn't have a score. Football is a billion-dollar industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry based on one team beating the other on a scoreboard. So why don't we use that for ourselves? Step 4 is keep score. People are naturally competitive. You're always looking to see how you compare against other people. If you're ahead of them, you're happy. If you're behind, you're either discouraged or you feel like you have to do something about it. One of my old coaches told me, men will die over points. And in my experience, that is totally true. When we were doing the practice problems for calculus, we would keep track of how many we got right and how many we missed. We weren't necessarily trying to beat everyone else. We all wanted to pass and we kind of rooted for each other. But if you were falling behind, you felt it and you wanted to fix it. I've seen this play out in school, in fitness, and in business. We keep grades. We look at the scale. We check our bank accounts. There are scores everywhere. So when you're trying to get yourself to do hard things, you want to find a way to measure success. How many minutes did you work? How many tasks did you get done? How many emails did you respond to? How much weight did you lift? For calculus, I'd score myself on how many questions I got right, how I did on the tests, and my overall grade at the end of class. And I ended up passing with an A- after failing that class 3 times. Now, I've since used this system to lose 100 pounds and build $1 million business. In fact, at my gym, we've been coaching all 4 of the steps in every session we coach with 9,000 people over the last 15 years. Step 1, define the task. We have a big whiteboard where we write the workout of the day every day. Step 2, set a timer. We have a timer we use to get people started, and the workout is measured by how much work you can get done in a certain amount of time. Step 3, do it with someone. We almost never do one-on-one sessions because people work better when they share their suffering with others. Step 4, keep score. We write the results on the whiteboard and celebrate any milestones people achieve. You can use this system to get anything started without motivation. But what if you've tried and failed so many times to get yourself going that you've started to give up? Go check out this video and learn a system for how to get unstuck and build habits that last. And do me a favor, if you like this video, please consider subscribing, and we'll see you in the next one.